Welcome to the channel, everybody. Let's start that again. Hey, welcome back to the Unconnoisseur channel, everybody. My name is Drew.
And my name is Matt. It's good to see you guys.
It's good to be back. Quick thoughts on Courtney Pine as we wrap that up. Did you enjoy any at all this week?
Having the artist that we're going to talk about tonight and our personal journey artist, it was hard for me to put Courtney Pine back in, but you know what? I did it. I did it Saturday. I listened to 3 or 4 songs off that Courtney Pine album again, Journey to the Urge Within. I put out a TikTok today as well about Courtney Pine. So, yes, I have. How about you?
I've had it in my ear a bunch, both editing into video, and it's just like, you know what? I can't think of anything else to play. Let's just play Courtney Pine and Joey jam with it.
Right?
So I'm going to transition over here to your screen directly.
All right.
You've got somebody sitting directly to your left. Do
Yes,
tell, man.
I have a true unconnoisseur who is just he's joining us on our journey. What is it? 22 weeks into our journey, and he's joining us. This is our younger brother Phil, all the way from Romania.
All the way, just for this.
just for this, just
I
to
had
record.
to see it live.
Weeks and weeks of listening to it, and now you're finally able to sit in.
Weeks and weeks.
Weeks ago, I listened to the first one, and this week I listened to another one.
Good. I understand that you've listened to this week's album, so you're going to be able to speak about that here in a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully.
Oh yeah. I can't wait. Yeah, can't wait.
Well, as we get ready to introduce the album, Matt, I'll let you introduce the album, and let's get straight on to the music clips so it makes a little bit more sense as we dig into what it is that we are listening to this week.
All right. Well, the album that we told you about to put in your ears for this week on our journey, this is the Joe Harriott Double Quintet under the direction of John Mayer. The name of the album is Indo Jazz Suite, and it was released on the EMI, Columbia, and Lansdowne series label. It was released on LP, and on the Atlantic label, it was released on CD. It was recorded December of 1965, and it was released in 1966.
So we're in for some real wild music. Do you want to roll that first clip?
Yeah, let me
Phil,
play.
do you want to introduce what that was? I'm going
Yeah.
to call you out on the spot, little brother, because first of all,
This
let me
is
say this. It's good to see you,
And it's good to see you too, even if it's just across the screen.
right?
This first one's the overture.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we'll play about what, 30 seconds, 30,
Yeah.
40 seconds?
Yeah,
All right,
we'll
so
give it a taste.
here's song number one, Joe Harriott Double Quintet, Indo Jazz Suite, song number one, Overture.
Oh, man, what an opening act.
We failed to mention that Joe Harriott's a saxophone player, and so he is actually the saxophone player that we just heard at the end of that clip. And I think he's playing alto sax on this particular album. So
If that's the start of the
What?
album,
Yeah.
you know we're in for some music.
Oh man, yeah.
what'd you think?
Yeah. Well, the start of it, as you get into it, they start adding the drums and bringing the bass and the bass line. You can taste the jazz right away. But then when they start getting into some notes, you're like, what the heck just happened to my sound palette? Yeah. I mean, that's Indian music. It's like there's something that just happened there. And it was crazy. Not typical jazz. I guess that's why they call it Indo
Indo
Jazz.
Jazz Suite. Well,
Yeah.
and that brings us up. Lily and I were listening to it on the way this morning. She's going to be doing some summer camp work at the school, and double quartet. It consisted of five quartet, five jazz musicians, and five Indian musicians. So the Joe Harriott Double Quartet. What's the second clip that we want to listen to?
The fourth song, the song number 4 on the album is called Raga Good Saranga. I'll just
Say
play
that 5 times fast. I dare you.
Raga Good Saranga.
Raga Gunsaranga.
There's a really kicking trumpet section in this song, the trumpet part. I hate to fast forward while we're recording. Just it's Chris Taylor on the flute. I love the sitar though.
It is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's the taste of the palate, It's something different.
Yep.
So what? Here,
That's
do
an
me
8-minute song. That's an 8-minute song.
Yeah, and with 4 songs on the album, total of 35 minutes of music. These are all a little bit on the longer side. I'll talk about what my thought was on that a little bit later, but I'm gonna drop in the trumpet clip in song 4
Yes.
right now. So let's go ahead and listen to that.
Perfect.
3,
there you
2,
go.
1. Yeah, you can definitely hear the jazz in that, can't you?
Yeah.
Definitely can. And then the third audio clip I want to drop in here, that was actually contrasts.
Okay.
So here we go. I'm going to drop in a few seconds of that, about 30 or 45 seconds of that on my end.
Cool.
And here we go. What an exciting album to be listening to, but I think that when we get to the dialogue of it, we'll find out more about our own personal thoughts. So, personal thoughts, personal life. What's been going on this week in your world, Matt?
Well, do you want me to run the slideshow first, or do you want to talk about what's going on?
Absolutely. Let's run the slideshow.
All right, Phil, why don't you give us just a little bit of insight while I run the slideshow?
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Tell us what your initial thoughts were as a true unconnoisseur.
Okay, so honestly, as I'm thinking jazz, when that started playing, I thought, I don't know what the heck I'm actually listening to, because I am not a connoisseur necessarily of Indian music. But I started down this journey with you guys to try to get a palate for it. And it took me a bit to remember. I saw a clip about a month ago that had to do with the way in which Indian music runs. We've got the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, but they have a different way of doing things. And I'm a professor, so guess what? I looked it up online. It's not what you know, it's if you know where to look for it. So the way that they have their pitch and melody, when you understand how that pitch and melody goes, you can catch do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Instead, they do, where is it? They do a different kind of scale, right? And so every time they hit, say the ga, ma, they do a little through the gamma. It's called the gamaka. So when you first listen to it, you think, okay, what the heck is happening? There's some Indian flair there. But as I started down this journey looking for it with you guys, I researched that again because I thought I know something about Indian music. And when you know something about the scale of Indian music, it's actually really cool, because to do those scales, to do it freestyle the way that jazz is supposed to be done, that's one of the things Indian music does. And so, what's it called? It's called a saga. No, what's it called? Raga, like reggae. Raga. Yeah, the raga, the way that they do their scale. So that melody, and guess what? As you read those, what they actually are, the songs. What's the name of the song? It has the raga in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So raga is that scale that goes into that music. And as the raga goes into jazz, you realize they're actually doing exactly what Indian music does, but you've got to do the gamaka in every one of those notes as it goes up. So you think, not only are they hitting every note, but they're throwing a different kind of scale into it. So that's my appreciation.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I never thought I'd study Indian music, but
So,
you guys pushed me down this.
love the logo. Whatever you do it to jazz, and it's still a mantra of mine. It's still in my fiber of being. So I listen to jazz all the time. It's just a picture of the album cover, Indo Jazz Suite, the Joe Harriott Double Quintet, under the direction of John Mayer. Next slide. Just a couple of pictures of John playing the saxophone. There's a black and white picture on top of John, and then there's a really cool. It looks like an album. Yeah, it is. It's an album cover from Chronology. 1968 and 69 Chronology album cover is really cool. Isn't that? That is sweet.
That is.
Love it. Here we go. So another album cover, another picture of Joe, and there's a quote on this slide. The Jamaican saxophonist Joe Harriott was, without doubt, one of the most important and innovative jazz musicians to emerge in Britain in the 50s and early 60s. So that's the other thing that I can't wait to talk about, is because he's Jamaican-born, lives in England. He's gotten, just very few American influences anyway. So I'm really looking forward to discussing that later in the episode. Here's the information slide. Joe was born in 1928. Unfortunately, he passed away in 1973. Now, his influences that were listed that I could find were Charlie Parker. So he does have an American influence. But being Jamaican, the calypso music was also influential to him. So I think, all around encompassing, he was just influenced by all different kinds of music.
Tons.
Anyways, yeah.
No wonder he ended up in Indo Jazz.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The discography, he's got 12 studio albums, 17 albums as a sideman, and then 6 EP releases. The basic genre for this album is actually free form, but Joe also does just straight jazz, just jazz. But the Indo, this is more of a free form avant-garde genre. You can really pick up the avant-garde stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. and in reality, Indian music is that. That is one of the distinctions to Indian music, because you learn the basics of it, and then you just free flow. So when you think of jazz, it fits so well with Indian style music. You got all these, sets, and then they just throw a free flow in there. So, yeah.
In jazz, we call it free form.
Free form.
Bill, you make it sound so easy. Oh, just throw the notes out there and it'll flow. Yeah, go ahead and break out an instrument and see how easy it is to flow with those notes.
My free flow would sound like jong chaka jonga, whatever came out, and it would have no sense. But yeah,
they do.
They make it.
So also on the information slide, I just put a little bit of his work. He was Ornette Coleman's counterpoint to British free jazz. Ornette he's a free jazz artist. They needed something like that in England, in Britain, and Joe Harriott. That was Joe Harriott. He was Ornette Coleman, British style. I couldn't find any awards that were listed, and I just put, man, that sucks.
He should have gotten an award.
He should have gotten.
We'll give it to him here.
There you go.
What do we give him? We'll give him something. We'll give him
here.
Yeah, this is his award.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, you got a better jazz award right there.
Jazz award. And then also on the information slide, I put no personal website. Bummer.
No.
But
Were websites available
In 1959, no,
1959?
no, not quite.
I don't think so.
But I will say there are other artists who have passed away that do have
their dedicated website. to
Yeah,
them, huh?
yeah.
We should start one.
for Joe Harriott.
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Wow.
It's just his album cover with our award.
He listens to jazz for 10 minutes and his brain just starts exploding.
I know,
and he's
right?
like, yeah, let's start a website.
Nothing wrong with that.
I will. He said,
Well,
you.
you know, he's
When
got
I
a
said
point.
we, I meant you.
There are so many people who don't have that information at hand at a glance. So it wouldn't hurt. Let's talk
Right.
about that later.
Right. So this week for me, 6 degrees of separation. We always do this little thing, 6 degrees of separation to Miles Davis. You've heard of the
Cool.
6 degrees of separation for Kevin Bacon, right?
Yeah.
So-and-so acted in this movie, who
Yeah.
acted with him, who acted with Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
So we started this cool little thing, 6 degrees to Miles Davis. So I hope that you found another one, but I had to research for a while today on the 6 degrees. So here's what I came up with. Joe Harriott played with Stan Tracy in 57.
We Love You Madly was the album.
Yes. Thank
Wow.
you. Did you come up with the same one?
Hang
I
on,
bet
I'll
you-
get
I
there.
bet you did. Then Stan Tracy played with Thelonious Monk. I didn't write down the year for that one. I didn't write down Tracy.
1956. Well, I'll let
and
you-
then Monk and Miles. So
yeah.
So there's 1, 2, 3 degrees of separation between
Wow.
Joe Harriott and Miles Davis.
Wow, that's it.
Yeah,
Cool.
I know.
You ready?
Yeah,
I got a whole page of connections.
I'm sure you do.
So, if you're braced, you know, obviously Stan Tracy did a Duke Ellington tribute, and
I
that
read
was
that.
what sparked this. Stan Tracy played with J.J. Johnson, who played with Miles Davis. However, it wasn't Stan Tracy that I found. It was Sonny Stitt through Hank Shaw, the trumpeter.
Okay, I started down Sonny Stent, and I'm like, this may be a dead end, so I'm just going to go with someone that I pretty well know
So
that's going to
Joe
be.
played with Hank Shaw, and Hank played with Red Rodney, trumpeter, who played with Charlie Parker and then Miles Davis.
Okay.
Harry South played with Tubby Hayes. Had no relation to Miles, but I saw Tubby Hayes and I was like, yeah, boy, another
I'm
British.
the same way. I'm the same way.
And that's when I thought it was going to be complicated because Joe Harriott is another British artist. And how often did they play together? Oh, they played frequently together. You ready?
Yes.
Joe played with Tony Kinsey in Paris in 1954. Tony Kinsley played with Ella Fitzgerald and Miles Davis.
Boom.
There you go.
Now, you ready? They also played with Sarah Vaughan.
What?
Now, Tony and Joe played together in Paris with Jerry Mulligan and Thelonious Monk. So Joe played with Thelonious directly in Paris, who played with
Okay.
Miles, who were direct connect.
So there would be 1 degree of separation instead of 3.
Wow.
Yep. Jerry
Cool.
Mulligan being the 1 degree.
Well,
So-
Joe Harriott also played with an artist we covered back on week number 5, week number 5, episode number 5, artist number 95,
Wasn't
Michael Garrick. Yep,
that a
from
cool
Tropo.
connection right there?
Yes, absolutely.
It reminds me of this, Matt, that the British jazz scene in the 50s, Miles was going over. A lot of our musicians were going over, and they got treated better in Paris than they did in America. Miles and Monk talked a lot about the treatment in Paris. So I started to place those connections, the European connection, and that I was just excited to see all of these different degrees. I was like, I bet Matt didn't find these.
All right, I've got one more slide to
Yeah.
show. Can you read that for me?
Today in jazz history, June 26th, Thessalonians Monk records, what is it?
Epistrophe.
Epistrophe, with a band that includes both Coleman Hawkins and John Coltrane in 1957. Drummer Joey Barron, born 1955 in Richmond, Virginia.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So today in jazz history. Yep.
Yeah.
Coleman Hawkins and Coltrane play with Thelonious Monk and record Epistrophe.
What a cool album that is too.
Yeah, right. To have Coleman Hawkins, who we haven't gotten to on our journey yet, but I'm pretty sure we're going to get to, and Coltrane, which we haven't gotten on our journey yet, but we're going to get there. To talk
it's
about
inevitable. Those names are inevitable.
So,
correct.
So I also did my research.
Oh, boy.
Musicians that were influenced by Indian music. So you think of the influence back. Musicians included John Coltrane. John Coltrane was highly influenced by these Indians who were doing
Nice.
the music. Isn't that cool? So it goes both
Nice.
ways.
He just drops a nugget like that.
Hey, I tell you, you just got to do your research.
Drops a nugget. Wow.
Yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, yeah.
All right then. So, how
Compatible.
did the album make you feel listening to this album, Phil? What was your thoughts? What's your take overall in the music? And it doesn't have to be the philosophy of it. Just feel. What'd you feel?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I said, the first feel was what the heck just happened, because Indian music, I just don't think of, jazz and Indian. So as I just first listened to it, I thought, well, there's the Indian, there's the high notes, there's the twang, right? You get that twang every while. So just first listening to it, it's like, what is going on? And how? That was my question. How is this jazz? Right? That maybe you guys could answer this, but when I first heard it, I thought, okay, is this jazz? Then I had to go back and think, what the heck is jazz? Really, what makes up jazz? Is jazz just the instruments? Is jazz the melody? What really makes up jazz? Because I thought, can we just call anything jazz now? As I first listened to it, I thought this is cheap. I don't know why they're calling it jazz. That was just my first impressions.
Okay, and just to go right along that lines, I kept wondering why this particular album made the magazine.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
why did Indo Jazz make it and Killer Joe didn't, or Hum Dono?
That would have been a good one too.
I kept thinking, don't know.
Yeah. Actually, I thought maybe they ran out of 99 and they thought, let's just put 100 in there, but throw it in the middle so it doesn't look like we meant to put it in there at the end. But no, especially as you look at the history, there was a lot of influence and things that went back and forth there for the influencers of those days. So, man, they were doing jazz just in a different style. So, yeah, made my appreciation come back up.
Well, and then as you get into the album a little deeper and you hear the sax come in, you hear the flute play.
Oh yeah, the flute.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You hear the drums. I mean, yeah, you're listening to some of the bongo stuff too, but some of the drum stuff. The trumpet comes in. What's his name? Eddie Blair.
Eddie Blair.
Eddie Blair on trumpet, and then you can kind of piece. You have to stretch your imagination a little bit to say, "Oh yeah, that's jazz."
Yeah,
but
it's you stretch your imagination with the technical, those gamakas, right? As they like you have to have it in there to be Indian,
right?
And
well, here's the other interesting fact about that same thing that I heard today, and we'll put a link to the YouTube video that I watched today, the documentary on Joe Harriott. But near the end of the documentary, the Indian guy who plays the sitar comes in and explains a little bit about the gamma, and he says there are certain notes going up that you play, but then you change the notes coming down, and it's a completely different scale coming down.
You thought jazz was hard.
Yeah. And there's not only just one gamma. You could play a different set of notes going up and then a different set of notes coming down, and that's a completely different gamma.
Yeah. Which I think is why it just throws your head. You just can't wrap your head around what you're hearing. I am not an Indian connoisseur of music at that, but trying to put my head around how that's jazz. Yeah.
So how much jazz do you really listen to, Phil? Any at all?
I know the word jazz, and I know that there was a jazz band in middle school that I didn't make because I played bari sax and March Berry sax in high school. So I didn't play. I didn't get into the jazz band. I was trying to think if you got into the jazz band, Drew.
I didn't
Were
know there
you?
was a jazz band.
Yeah. They did
There
jazz
was there was a you know what in high school there was a jazz band that was part of that pep band, and I wouldn't have thought a tuba player in a jazz band, not
band.
until recently, but that's
No.
that's what the bass line was a tuba, so it makes sense. I do remember that now. Maybe I blocked it out because I didn't meet the cut for that.
Yeah.
So this album actually made the 1999 and the 2006 list. It was 10 albums back. So this week is number 78. In 2006 and 1999 it was 88. So it was 10 back in the magazine. And I think moving it up in the list, I don't know, because it gave us a little more time to appreciate what jazz is and to learn a little more about jazz. And then you throw this album in your ear and you can
Well, after 22 weeks of starting to appreciate what jazz is and still defining it, I think I'd be curious of that. But all of a sudden, you really hear it and you go, "Oh, okay. I think I may understand it. I may not, because the Indian music is foreign anyways, and especially their scales are very different than the Western 12 notes."
Yeah.
So it was an interesting one. I appreciate the fact that it is in the magazine. I appreciate where it's at, and I think that a year later, going back and listening to it, oh, I really understand it now. I really dig it. I really appreciated it.
Well, and I will say the recognizability for me because I have a jazz playlist on my phone with the top 100 albums that we're on, and so I just put it on shuffle when I can't think of anything I want to listen to or any particular artist. I put that list on shuffle and I play a little game with myself where I'll turn my phone over and try and listen to and try and guess the artist. You know that it's Joe Harriott, the Indo Jazz Suite, when it comes on.
Distinct.
Very distinct. It's very recognizable.
Okay, so ignorance question here. One, these are in order of what they're ranking them. Are they ranked according, like this number 78 is number 78 because it ranks in this accordingly?
Well,
in this 100 list, the magazine started out saying it's not the most sold, it's not the most recognizable, but this is an annotated ranked chart that changed jazz and changed lives and brought the life-affirming music kicking and screaming. So what they looked at was, did this change jazz, and can we make it in the top 100 list? And this was what John Dewey and the team at Jazzwise Magazine, not a plug because no sponsorship, but that's what they put together was this top 100 list. And so, we're going down from 100 to the best album, most recognizable.
Well, so then the follow-up question to that is then, is there anything before this that's Indo Jazz?
No.
So this was your first taste of it as you came down the list.
The question, not about us, is this the first time that we've listened to Indo Jazz? This is the beginning of Indo Jazz.
Well, okay, that leads me to my next kind of rabbit hole for this week. And if you look at the complete title of the album, it's Under the Direction of John Mayer. Now, it's not the John Mayer guitar player that we think of today.
That's not John Mayer. Yeah.
But the composer of this, John Mayer, he's an Indian composer. And I mean, his compositions are primarily for the fusion jazz anyways. So I rabbit holed. Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I rabbit hole today just reading about John Mayer and why he was influential anyways. And so he worked extensively with Joe Harriott and formed the group Indo Jazz. So I don't know. Those are the kind of little rabbit holes that we go down. When you see something, you're like, oh, I don't know what that is. So then you start research, and man, you might end up running down a hole that you expected to fall down, and you're like, no, let's keep going.
So this is my rabbit hole. I went back to where did Indo Jazz originate, and it's saying it's 1920s. And my question is, then did these guys talk? Like, did they have something that influenced to the other? I mean, you think of India, of course, it was under British rule, all those kind of things. Like maybe the Brits influenced into India as early as the 20s, and they said we could do this jazz music, or did they just come up with something because music is music, and that's my rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Where did it originate, and was it highly influenced by others coming from Britain, or did the Indians go,
Well,
yeah, we've already had this?
John Mayer was probably the one that brought it. Said, yeah, we've been doing this for a long time. Matt and I have talked a little bit about Jeanette Records and Star Piano 1928 early recordings. So you wouldn't have been recording in 1930, and so it wouldn't have been a record that was brought over. It's a oral communication. Somebody brought it over and said, hey, we could do this. But for the Eastern music, you wouldn't have blended it with the Western style, because the Western style, well, it was still fresh. You would have, but then somebody decided to put it together and record it. So John Mayer could have been it. And I didn't look into that, so thanks, Phil. Now I'm going to have to go rabbit hole again.
Yeah. Chase that down.
Both thanks sarcastically. Oh, great! Now I got to go listen to more. And thanks because that's a valid point to bring up.
Well, okay. Here's another question. Since we're doing that, was there anyone else who did it? Was there another Indo Jazz?
Yeah.
In time, there was. Because John Mayer and Joe did 2 more albums after this together.
Okay, but that's not anybody else. That's still Joe Harriott.
Well, it's Joe Harriott. But it did start to spin more and more of this music. And we talked about this last week. Where did Courtney Pine's history come from? And what was the music that he brought to the table in London, being born in Jamaica?
Okay.
And so I think the conversation about London is music's coming from all over the world there too, just like America. And blending them together, was there more? And I would say that there is. Still today, there's more.
I'm thinking, and we talk about language a lot because I'm studying language. We do a lot with language, trying to figure out what it sounds like the way they say it, based the way we say it. And I'm just thinking these guys come over and go, here's what jazz looks like. And they go, but if we played it in our scales, here's what it'd sound like. Yeah. And you can just imagine musicians, because we enjoy, that flavor, the way in which we just jive together. Like, what the heck is that? Let's run with it. Yeah. Let's run with it. And then he went and composed it, right? So composing is a whole nother, way of doing it. That's like coming up with a language.
Well,
right?
it sounds like, for me in Texas, is speaking Spanish and English. And if I've got a translator who can put it all on the table, this was what might it sound like, and then you write it out. For you, that would be Romanian and whatever else.
American. Yeah. Well, it would be, even from my time in Texas, when you just have someone talking about what they had for dinner last night, and they had tacos and tortillas, and you're like, whoa. We would say it tortillas, but you got to say it right, like tortillas. You got to throw the flair in there. So the more they leave the flair in there, the more you get Indo Jazz, I bet. Yeah, they say we came up with a new way of talking. Throw these 2 languages together, and it sounds cool. Yeah.
Oh, man. I think we just found a new co-host.
We did too. I think we're only 8 hours different, so that we can just have the 3 brothers chatting about this.
That's right, but you got to put it in 9 a.m. because 9 p.m. my time is going to be like 3 in the morning. So you get a heck of a different co-host.
That's jazz, baby.
Hey guys, I'm here.
Welcome to Late Night Jazz.
I'm one of the hosts, Phil from Romania. And tonight we're going to be snoring. So, to interrupt this, Matt, what's your week been?
Well, hang on. Before we do that, one more time. Let's go ahead and finish our discussion with Joe, and then I want to give you as much time to talk about your week, because I'm more jacked to hear about your week and I have some big stuff went on in my week this week too. But
let's do it.
Did it shake your world?
It did.
Did Indo Jazz shake your world?
My score in a little bit did not reflect that, but the first time we listened to it, it shook me up. It kind of picked me up by my feet and took my pocket change, beat me in the face, and then left me in the cold. I won't say that it was an amazing shook my world, but it did. It really shook me up, because this is the first time that we've heard something like that. So, what about you?
Did it shake you up?
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, I would not have researched this had I not, been coming to this podcast. So the way that you guys just kind of shook me up to go, get back into some music appreciation, look at this stuff. It really is making me. I would never have researched this, right? I would never chase this rabbit hole.
Trust me,
So-
we know how you
Yeah,
feel.
yeah.
'Cause this
Yeah. So I do ask myself the question, why am I looking up Indo Jazz? So yeah, shaking me up, make me turn a different direction and look. Yeah, appreciation.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
This one rattled me a little bit. It took me a while to wrap my head around it. Like Phil, the first time that I heard this, I kept thinking, is it really jazz? And do I really need to study it? What do I need to know?
Yeah.
But the further you go, the more you put it in and listen to it. And like I said, it's recognizable for me. And that's a big part of my journey, is if in a year from now, my shuffle playlist comes on and that album comes on, I'm going to know
Yeah.
that's Indo Jazz Suite by Joe Harriott.
Yep.
Boom. So it rattled me at first, and then the aftershocks are still hitting me today for sure.
Yep.
I think we need to go to England and just go research some of this now. Let's just make it happen.
I'm in with
We
that.
chase some things around England we never would have.
I want to go see Courtney Pine.
Maybe we could invite him.
Maybe.
We'll buy him a pint or
Warren
10.
Guinness. Got you covered.
So we rate. You can see up there on our ratings page.
That would be on the website.
That would be on the website.
Connoisseur.com.
Unconnoisseur.com. Thank you.
Shameless plug.
We like. Here's kind of our criteria: the craftsmanship of the album,
Oh wow.
the awareness, the creativity, the spirit, and then Drew and I both, we added emotion. How does it make you feel? Now, we don't give specific numbers.
I see you laughing, Phil.
How does that make
How
you
does it
feel?
make you feel, right? How does it make you feel?
Yeah.
So those are the kind of what's the word I'm looking for?
Criteria.
That's criteria.
That's the criteria.
Good, your co-host is here.
Thanks for being there, Phil. Keep him in line.
in front of the camera for 10 minutes and he thinks he runs the show. That's the criteria we use to rate. So we also remember that we are unconnoisseurs, and what we don't know, we don't know. So we give ourselves a little grace. We told ourselves a long time ago that we won't change our score, but we can talk about what we would have done different. So he and I are much farther along in the magazine than what album we're recording today.
Okay.
So my score, you ready to hear my score?
I am.
All right. I gave Joe Harriott Double Quintet Indo Jazz, I gave it a solid 7. I mean, it's recognizable. I don't mind it. It's not something that I can't listen to or that I want to turn off as soon as it comes on. So solid 7.
And Phil, earlier on when we began our conversation almost a year ago, we used recognizability as one of the key factors in our rating of it. If it came on in a grocery store or in a shopping mall or on the radio, would we know it? Joe Harriott's not going to get playtime in anything. And so I think to us, the recognizability kind of went out the window, and that's when Joe Coker's book played a major part with the criteria that we currently use. It did move me because I had never, ever, ever experienced anything like that before. I've listened to Indian music, and I think that a couple years ago, I was at an Indian festival here at one of the temples with our neighbors. So I got to listen to what I would call the trance music. That Indian trance music that the songs are like an hour and a half long. And there was a time period when I was sitting there just thinking, will it ever end? But when you're watching the parties and the dancing that takes place until 7 a.m., I mean, the party kicked off 3 days earlier, and they were still dancing and multiple bands coming in. The trance sounds of the Indian music is what I picked up on this. So it was kind of a fun one. I gave it a 7.5 on this week that I rated it. And I think go ahead.
No, please.
I think to me that just the fact that it would stick out so much that Joe Harriott would do something like this with John Mayer was super, super cool. But the assembly of who he put together for the album, I think those names carried on as well. So that It wasn't a one-time one and done. They had some big names on the album to begin with. But yeah, that was it.
What would you rate it at based on the scores that you heard from him and I? And again, you just listened to it for the first time this week, so it's still fresh in your mind. This has been a year for us now, and we've had a lot of other music in our ears. We always come back.
As he goes about rating it, would you ever go back and listen to this album?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah. Well, for one, I'll give my rating. I would say it was at a like 5 the first time I listened to it, but as I studied it, it's moving up to like an 8 or 9. Like it's really pushing up there for me as it goes because of the creativity and craftsmanship.
Yeah.
Because when you think of a guy like John Mayer who's conducting this, you got to have some creativity to be able to conduct that kind of jazz. There's no way that you just pull that out, right? You'd have to know how both of those languages, if you will, musical languages fit together so that you could compose something like that.
That's it.
But as you would say, probably what was the other one on listening?
Creativity
and the
and emotion.
The one you didn't list, awareness. Like, would anyone, my question, I guess, would anyone know Joe Harriott or would they know John Mayer? So what would that album have sold? Right? Would it have sold because it was a John Harriott? Like, who the heck is John Harriott?
Joe Harriott.
Joe
Harriott.
Nobody knows.
John Mayer.
John Mayer, Joe Harriott.
Would they have known which name? I don't know. Maybe that would change your rating. But you guys have heard of either of those guys?
Well,
right? The awareness.
Up until this, in the magazine, no, we had never heard it. Nope.
Yeah.
But however, I will say that on our journey, not only do we listen to this album, but we go on and listen to other albums by the same artist.
Nice. Yeah.
So that's why I mentioned Killer Joe a little bit ago. That's another. That's one of his anthologies, Killer Joe. So that's like 2 hours and 45 minutes of straight jazz. Not Indo jazz.
Yeah.
So that's part of our rabbit hole where we try and listen to as much of the other work, where we pick decades. Let's listen to the 50s. Let's listen to something in the 60s, something in the 70s. That's how I do it. No, I mean that's how we do it. So we don't just listen to Indo jazz all week long. We research and listen to some of the other stuff that the artist has done. So you gave it a what? An 8? A 9?
Yeah, I mean I'm up at an 8 as the appreciation. Yeah.
Nice.
And that creativity for sure. For sure. But I haven't even gotten the scale until now, so I just made that up.
You just threw him out there.
That's a solid.
And I think it's an interesting point too, because what he said about it, who would we recognize? Go back to Robert Gradinger and in the City of Glass. When you turned on a Stan Kenton album, what are you expecting? And then all of a sudden, a Joe Harriott, who has been a free-form jazz player, who's been mostly a bebop. He was a hardcore bebop player up until then.
Yep.
And then you take John Mayer, who had been doing this indie music for so long. They both had different worlds that they're coming into to collide to make this happen. If I'm a Joe Harriott listener, did I go, oh man, what, you just threw your career away? And if I'm a John Mayer fan, did I say the same thing? You just wiped your career clean. So I liken it to that because of Phil's looking at that way.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah,
man, I wish more people would comment on stuff, but let's move on because I do have one comment. Speaking about comments,
okay.
This came up on YouTube today, and this was by David Walker, who had commented on Django's album that we had released.
Nice.
I don't know if you saw that pop up. Nobody is as good as Django. Everything about his playing is awesome. Timing, phrasing, unbelievable technique, but puts him above everybody in his abstract musical mind and his ability to play instantly and perfectly any musical idea that came to his head. So we had gotten that comment on Django, and Phil, your comments today are going to challenge us for weeks to come.
Cool.
And you know what? Regarding that comment right there, you can't argue one point of that comment. He's right.
Django
is. Django's. I mean, he perfect timing, perfect note, perfect pitch, um, perfect creativity, all with two fingers on the guitar.
Seriously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that off air here in a moment, so Phil can
Very
understand.
cool.
As a guitarist, Phil, you'll appreciate Django's style and where the gypsy jazz came from.
Well,
Um,
and
You
maybe he'll watch the episode then if we
well,
tell him,
that's
hey,
you know what we've
you
got information on that album. You'll have to go listen to.
you just spoke my language though, because you said gypsy jazz,
Yeah.
and there's a whole lot
Well-
of gypsies in Romania.
Well,
and do you know where they came from?
yeah, Django, he's
That-
he's a gypsy and he's actually from Romania.
Do you know where they came from though? They originated out of India. Gypsies are Indians that have migrated up and through Europe.
Nice.
I think that's a perfect connection right there.
yeah. You are
that's
going to
why
have to go
gypsy
comment
jazz-
on Django Bates.
Goes out. I'll comment. Definitely look for it.
Oh, you know what? That wasn't Django Bates. It was
No,
Django
yeah.
Django
Reinhardt.
Reinhardt. Django Reinhardt.
Yeah.
The son.
Okay. All right. That wraps up our discussion of Joe Harriott. Now, I have been waiting. I have been waiting patiently all weekend. I didn't want to bug you. I knew that you were swamped, but
You should have called.
I know. I know I
called
could have.
you- I called you one day when I was leaving,
I
and
know.
I said I just needed to cry.
So, tell me about what was going
Well,
on this week.
I'm going to go to full here so you can see my shirt on the
Yeah.
screen. Texas Jazz and Blues Camp.
Yeah.
Know a teen interested in learning to play jazz? Join us at the 9th Annual Texas Jazz and Blues Camp in Austin, Texas, June 10th through 14th. They'll learn from world-class instructors and clinicians, including Don Braden, Andre Hayward, and Joe Morales. The week wraps up with a concert for friends and family featuring students and faculty combos. Boarding is available for out-of-town participants. For more information and to sign up, visit us at newschoolofmusic.net.
This was the 9th annual Texas Jazz and Blues Camp, and the second year that I've got to do photography and video for it.
Cool.
Last year, I kind of made a commitment. I would love to have been a participant in this camp. We had 55 student musicians. I was a faculty member this year, as listed there, as a photographer and videographer. It was a week of musical education for students and an opportunity to perform on stage at the end of the week the songs that they'd been learning. They did music. You bring up photos or
No, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Keep going.
they had a chance to do music theory classes, which was a practical theory, not just about here's the book work, but how do we make these things in daily practice as we're working through our instruments. It was a combo classes. They had really about 3 hours a day at two separate intervals to practice as their combos. Instructors gave them the songs. I think most of them this year never actually had even a chord sheet. So it was, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to learn the song by ear. We're going to play it together. We're going to harmonize it together. World-renowned musicians and local Austin musicians as well, led by Don Braden, which was super cool. And then over these few years, I've gotten to know many of the names that were instructors. But I watched as the instructors poured their lives out into 55 students. Wanted to make them better at jazz, wanted to make them better at music in general, and then overall, what jazz is. And I go back to Wynton Marsalis talking about it. The solo is I. The music is about me. How do I feel? How do I appreciate it? It's about us and the total community. How do we play together? How do we work together? How do we I'm looking at the screen with all three of us on it. How do we participate in life together from all different, we all came from the same mom and dad, but we're all in three different worlds now. But how do we come together on one channel and talk about this as brothers? These groups got together and did that. And then the democracy of it for the solos and the improvisation and who plays first, who plays second, who's the third. Don't have three trombones all solo back to back, break them up. Don't have two tenor sax players. And watching everybody pour into these students day after day after day. It started at 9 o'clock and it finished most nights by 5:30 or 6. And so there were master classes taught by like Red Young on a Hammond B3 organ. There were a blues guitar and his band come up, and I don't have his name in front of me. We
Now
had
we FaceTimed that day. It was either Monday or Tuesday, the first day of camp or the second day of
Yep.
camp. You FaceTimed me, and there was a blues session going on, and that
Yes.
was the bass player for Stevie Ray Vaughan, right?
Yes.
Double Trouble. He was in Double Trouble.
Oh,
So you
Yep.
were in the same room, breathing the same oxygen. You were 1 degree of separation from Stevie Ray Vaughan.
I was. I didn't get to play with him. I just got to hang out with him.
Oh, darn.
In every master class, I went and introduced myself to every performer that was on stage. I wanted to verify that it was okay that we ran video so that we could publish it on New School of Music Austin's site as well as mine. So yeah, I got to hang out with some really great musicians. There were some that will stick out into my head for years to come, many that I will connect with later. I mentioned the pianist name from Brazil. What it was kind of a disappointment. We were running late, so they gave him 45 minutes. And then he was going to bring up a musician, that was Rico Pinahoya. They were going to bring up a musician to play with him, which was Chris McQueen from Snarky Puppy. And it was like, we got 45 minutes to play. Everybody got like 3 songs, and that was it. And Rike could have played and taught for 2 hours. I mean, I was full up. I'm just watching people pouring their lives. They had a master class about stage presence. What do you do when you get applause? How do you acknowledge as a solo and people applause? How do you applaud other people who are in your band? They did some of the most incredible instruction, and it's 55 students. Next year, I think that we can expect and hope for about 75 students. And I say I am now officially on the advisory board at the New School of Music Austin. So I am involved in this community of music, and it's become a great passion. And it started, we just talked about this last week on Courtney, because of Lily. And so I greatly appreciate this. And to look at all 3 of you, all 3 of us, I'm sorry, the 2 of you sitting there side by side, we came from music. We came from Rhoda Gershmel and Jack Schmidt. We were products of piano at home. And can Philip come out and play? No, he's got to practice for an hour first. We are products of music, and so we understand and value the music. And to watch my daughter do music is phenomenal.
So you know what else Wynton Marsalis said, right? And this quote just sticks with me. It resonates with me all the time. But Wynton says, "You got to go there to know there," and you are going there. You're in it. You're in the trenches. I'm just so proud. I mean, I can't believe it. You're putting yourself in there.
Yeah, I'm excited for myself about the musical journey, but I'm excited to watch what students are picking up day after day. Yes, it's just a week-long camp for them. They get dropped off in the morning, pick up, or now we do boarding overnight for many of them. I think there were 12 of them that stayed overnight. And it's a focus on teens, but we had somebody, Kent, who runs the not Three Rivers Big Band, the Republic of Texas Big Band. He's the director of that for 12 years. So he is there playing as well. And if I'm a student, I'm not the youngest one in the room, but then it's just phenomenal. So I appreciate the fact that I can be involved and help the next generation. And I take a chapter from Wynton teaching. I appreciate what he does with Jazz at Lincoln Center. I take the Tomorrow's Warriors and the Jazz Warriors and Courtney Pine and what he's done and set an example, Greg Worsby. The names over this year that we've collected and understood have made that impact. And I think that into the future, doing the same thing.
Definitely. Well, the fact that you're getting to watch that culture, I think, is one cool thing, because that culture where they're encouraging the younger ones to push into something that's bigger than themselves, this is one impact that you're just witnessing, because that's what our lives have been about too.
Yes.
Putting into other people, because what happens, you get a reward from it, and working with other people, and then appreciating other people, even though they're trying, we're trying. That's the way to go, because you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to get on and do exactly what you're seeing on stage. You're not going to do what you're seeing on YouTube. It's taking discipline and practice, and those things that you're pouring into those young people, that those guys are pouring into their lives, is making such an impact, such a difference, as music does for all of us, because there's discipline to it. There's something you have to put in to get out.
Well,
Yeah.
we sit here and talk about artists every week and fail to realize the amount of hours that it took them to get to the level that they're at, the thousands of hours that they've practiced and rehearsed. And
I heard
it
go ahead.
Yeah.
I heard it
in the practice room by themselves. I'm throwing scales,
It's a discipline.
I heard one of the instructors. I usually sit with the kids at lunch, and it's a phenomenal lunch. It's at St. Stephen's School. They're an international boarding school, so it's like Golden Corral almost. You get fed well. But I'm sitting with the instructors one day, and one of the guys says, I had to get an app from my phone that would do an alarm for reminders, because I would get so busy practicing, I'd forget to eat for the day.
Yeah.
And I kind of looked at him and rubbed my belly, and I said, "Brother, I don't need an alarm for that." and he does. He looked at the other instructors and he said, "Do you guys run into that?" And you don't think about the hours and hours and hours that they spent alone blowing a horn to get to where they are, or the keys, the organ.
So actually, if you haven't seen it, you need to pick it up. But Van Halen was in one of the magazines at the airport, and I was flipping through the magazine, and one of the things that it said about Eddie is the difference from Eddie to everyone else. There's no way they could have compared, because it was not just his career. It was not just a passion. It was like his hobby. Like, you just enjoy it. You love it. And so he would practice and practice and practice and practice and practice when everybody else is going, "Man, let it lay." And he go, "No, a little deeper, a little more." Like, he pushed into it, and you can tell that, right? And there's no one who's just going to be able to walk up and be like, "Yeah, here's Eddie Van Halen," without a lot of discipline. But that's so cool, because putting into those kids that joy and that depth that goes there, that's really cool, Drew.
So I just have one very important question regarding the Jazz and Blues Camp. Did Lily enjoy herself?
Absolutely. And because she's got friends now from not just our Sunday night ensemble, but she's met other people from North, South, East, and West Austin. A small group of girls stayed overnight at the camp, so she made some great friends through that as well. And so, good. She had a blast. And when she had an opportunity to solo, as a dad, I just wanted to stand there and absorb her moment on stage. As the photographer, I was thinking, I've got to get pictures of everybody else, but I'm in front of everybody, so I just want to take pictures of her. She's really good. She's got a brilliant ear.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Good. But Matt, talking about proud daddy moments, do tell.
Oh, come on.
Well, all right. So it was a good week in music for me. There was a lot of external stuff going on that I was worried about at the beginning of the week. My car wasn't running right, and I knew the heat wave was coming, and that always gets me flustered a little bit. But I had Wednesday night to look forward to, and Wednesday night at the club room is always jazz. There's always jazz going on, free, that you can go and listen to. But every third Wednesday of the month, the Three Rivers Big Band plays at the club room. And it just so happens that their drummer was on vacation, and they needed a fill-in drummer. And they asked my daughter, Lady D, to fill in. Now, she was pretty stressed about it. She was here practicing a whole week, and they gave her a giant book of songs. Yep. And they didn't give her a set list. So so it's like one of those, here's your textbook, and we're going to have a test at the end of the week. I'm not going to tell you what to study.
Ouch.
Just be ready.
Yeah.
And so she was a little scared at first, but once she got the set list on Monday, well, they had a rehearsal on Sunday. So she got the set list on Sunday. So she was able to come home and really focus on those songs on the set list. And
it could have been any one of those songs out of their book, though.
Correct. So yeah, she had the book for a week before the rehearsal, and she was feeling a little overwhelmed, I think, by just the sheer amount of charts in the book.
Yep. Yep.
And but once she got the set list, man, she dialed it in, and he actually happened to come over that night.
We came back. We came all the way back from Michigan. We were up there for a friend's wedding. Came all the way back just so we could watch it, and we're not sad at all for making that long trip to come back.
Good.
It was really good.
Well,
Yeah,
and for
really
Lady
good.
D,
And
that
you-
meant the world too.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, not just her dad sitting there, but the rest of her family and her cheering section was rather loud that night, right?
And our buddy Richie is Delaney Bright, obviously. This is Mercy, Mercy, Mercy. There's 3 mercies there.
Yeah,
Right.
When he introduced everybody and it came down to her turn, he just said, "I'm going to say that again because I want to hear that cheering squad again." Another time he goes, "I think I'm just going to go to the grocery store and go Delaney Rice and see if people cheer," because we were there in full force, man.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was worth the cheers.
Yes, it was a good night. I had my Zoom recorder with me, and I was able to record the first set. And then, unfortunately, my batteries died for the second set, so I did not get a chance to do the audio. But special announcements for the Unconnoisseur channel: I will be posting the first set of the Three Rivers Big Band on our channel. So there'll be 15 songs posted, probably up tomorrow. The next day after you watch this video, they'll be up there. So.
Awesome.
So you'll get to hear my daughter, Lady D, throwing down some drums, and just, I mean, they're a great big band,
And-
anyways.
Oh,
And
my,
that reminds me, Matt, I'm going to drop the concerts, the combos on the channel as well from
Yes.
New School Texas
For
Jazz
sure.
Blues Camp.
So then on Thursday is when my world just everything could flow again in my brain. There's nothing that I hate worse than automobile trouble, car trouble, and I happen to have
Onboard
I happen to have one of the two.
Greasy Finger Phil
one of
comes
the
to the
two
rescue.
that I know. You can fix cars, and he came to the rescue for me on Thursday and spent 12 hours working on a project to get my car stopping.
Yeah.
it was working just fine. I needed it to stop. So
Yeah, but you had help, right?
Yeah.
Because I said, I'll do this job, but only because my boys are going to get to come in. So they got their first experience at a junkyard, and literally they said, that was on my bucket list to go to a junkyard. Think of that, Drew.
Did you guys
They
go
just
down
wanted
the
to go to
Mills?
a junkyard. No, we went to
take
take
apart,
apart, pull your own
okay.
part, whatever. And man, they wanted to stay. They were like, it only costs $3 to get in here. Can we come in and tear apart
Well,
an engine? What can we do?
Now you know why I loved year after year to go work with Steve at Delta
yeah.
Record.
Oh,
Man, it
heck
was such
yeah,
a
man.
blast to run around and grab parts.
So
Yeah.
the good news is they got to practice on a junk car, taking the brake booster out, because it's not just, here's 4 bolts
Yeah.
and we're just going to take it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
No, they got to practice on that car, and then when they made it to my car, they
They
had
knew what they
everything
were
dialed
doing.
in. He
Yeah.
knew which bolts went where. Oh, that's a 12 millimeter. Oh, that's a 13. Oh, we got to do this. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, $40 for the part and $40 for pizza.
$57 for the part and
50
$10 for pizza.
Okay, it'd have been worth $200 for the part and
It was,
$50
yeah.
for the
$50
pizza.
Yeah.
of pizza.
It was.
Because
Yeah.
If I'd have had to taken that to the shop,
Yeah.
it would
Six, 7 easy
Oh,
at the
yeah.
low end.
at the low end.
Yeah.
Yep.
So So my world was able to shift back into a jazz focus, and I didn't have to worry about my vehicle.
Yeah.
So Saturday night is a long story. Long story to get to Saturday night. Saturday was a long day. We had a graduation party to go to. Well, we had breakfast to go to first.
Yeah.
VFW breakfast.
Oh,
We'll make sure.
VFW.
We'll make sure that. Yeah.
Got it.
Yep. We did that, and then we did Alana's graduation party in Ohio.
Yeah. Saw the fam, was really cool.
Yeah.
Everybody
and
there.
Everyone. Oh, and by the way, Uncle Dave, if you were on Facebook, you'd know we'd have a YouTube channel. But now that you know, hey, welcome. Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks for joining
Hey,
us
Dave.
on our channel. And please start making comments, because we're a couple of knuckleheads talking about jazz. We are unconnoisseurs, but I know that you'll enjoy the Wynton Marsalis episode. And we've got some trumpet players coming on
Yeah.
that we'll
You know
talk
what,
about.
Dave? And you've talked about this. David Goldsmith was instrumental in your instrument as a child.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
here's the question. And I know it's a long ways from Bix to Dave, but Dave, go take a look at the Bix Beiderbecke. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, watch Bix first and then watch our Wynton episode, because we still kick ourselves in the throat for Bix. So anyways, graduation party, we got to see the family. Loved that time in Ohio. Then we came back to Auburn to watch Lady D once again on the drums, laying down rhythms
Rocking it.
for the Sweetwater All-Star Band.
Sweetwater Music All-Star Band.
Sweetwater
Yes.
Music, yes. Sweetwater All-Star Band.
Yes.
All-Star. It's not a big band. It's a rock band. Guitar player, the lead singer,
Bass.
and then the horn section,
And then the three horns.
the trombone, the trumpet, and the saxophone.
Yeah.
Had a keyboard player, which Delaney has played with him before. Raleigh, Delaney and Raleigh play together in musicals and some other plays that she does around town. The bass player, Dave, he also plays in the Three Rivers Big Band, but Delaney has played with him before. And, those two they watch out for her. They know she's a good drummer, first of all. They know she's responsible, second of all.
Yeah.
They know she knows what she's doing and is able to roll with the punches. And there was some times where she'd be going along and she'd look over at Dave, doing all right, and Dave would just give her a little nod. Yep, you're doing great. Boom, 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 boom.
You know,
It was
if
cool.
there's anything that I learned watching the students this past week, your rhythm section better be together. Your horns can be all over the place, but your bass, your keys, and your drummer, if you got those three in sync, there's nothing that's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
And if it does, all three of them threw it out the window.
Yeah.
So
Pretty much, yeah.
she's got to set that time, keep that time, and let them roll with it. So
Proud dads for sure. Both of us should be proud of our children. Well, you too.
I'm proud of them going out and fixing his car so they could drive it over there, I contribute 1 degree of separation. I don't know what that is, but
I told them after the car got fixed, they have to drive it to go get the pizza. So it better be fixed right.
It better be right.
we didn't know that was part of the criteria. We just said, we work on your car, you feed us pizza. No. You drive it. It works. You get pizza. Oh, we'd have never started. It's lucky he said that at the end.
So it was a huge week for me, huge week for you. What was your week in music?
Okay,
because
I've got to back up on a couple weeks, if I can borrow a couple weeks back, because I was in Canada, right? And I just have to tell you guys, when you get a chance to get Daryl Stogren on your show, I told him, my brothers do this. They would have you on the show. You're going to have him on the show. Have to have him on the show. Why? Because 35 years ago, he gave up a career. He went to Berkeley for school. He conducted, he wrote, he's a composer. He loves jazz. He's done all kinds of bits with this. He has written music, lays down music, and he says, look, you got to have these people in order for this to get pulled out right. And he's right now in the midst of working on his opus. He is figuring out how to put together his last composition. And in October, actually, seriously, if you guys get him on the show, you'll drive to Canada to go to his opus. You would, because it would be worth it. He showed me. So this was my week in music here 2 weeks ago. I sat with him for an hour as he named off names. And at the end of the conversation, he says, I'm sorry, I've been talking a long time. What's your thoughts? And I said, all I can say is if my brothers were sitting here right now, they'd be crapping their drawers. But I was in jet lag, so it was like 4 a.m. when we were having this conversation. I said, but I can't wait to introduce you guys. Daryl Stogren. You could look him up. Maybe there's some stuff. The saddest news for him was that all of his music was laid out on reels, and it was stored at his musician buddy's house. And Drew, you can appreciate this more than any of us. Guess what happened? He had a fire. All of his music was gone. He showed me one that they happened to be able to get because it was stored at another buddy's house. And he said, hey, by the way, I've got this sitting around. He goes, that's my only piece of music that's laying out there. There may be a couple more, but as I can recall the conversation, you guys have to check him out and get him on your show. He said he's willing. He's been working with youth for the past 35 years because he made a 2-year commitment. 35 years later, he said he never looked back. But it's always been his hobby. It's always been something he's done. So, yeah, I can't wait to let you guys connect with him. Because when he starts rambling off names of the people he worked with, you'll go, are you kidding me? You knew these guys. You work with these guys.
Yeah.
Not only, like you say, Drew, when they would come around, he said, these people were really cool people. And these people you didn't want to work with. But they would show up in Canada, right? And these guys would be putting on a set. And they would just throw in together a band, right? And so as they were throwing together a band, it made me really appreciate what happened with Delaney on Wednesday night and on Saturday night. Because it's not easy. But when you throw the good talent together, that's an all-star, right? You pull those talents together and let them rip. And
Matt, I just brought his name up. You ready? He was able to spend time with great band leaders like Woody Herman.
Here they come.
Woody Herman, Count Basie, Buddy Rich, Stan Kenton, and Maynard Ferguson.
Maynard. Oh, definitely. That's the only name I really knew.
It was Stan Kenton that recommended that he apply to Berkeley in 1983.
Yeah. And so he was in Berkeley. You get like a master teacher, right? And you've got to try. You've got to do all you can to get in. And they give you 1 year. And I forget the exact story, but I think it was 2, maybe even 3 years that this guy gave him to pour into him. Because that's how good he was. And he could master. Yeah.
He is the winner of Berkeley's Woody Herman Jazz Masters Award for outstanding contribution to Berkeley Performance Series.
Yeah.
I wonder if he knows Pat Metheny.
I bet he does.
I wonder what
sure.
year did Pat I wonder what year Pat Metheny graduated from Berkeley.
It would have been, he would have been a decade before.
70s, 80s, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because he was already putting out music.
He was putting out music in
78.
That was what we listened to with him and Jocko. So,
wow,
you know what?
That was my week weeks ago. So couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it.
I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job here on this channel. You're going to hire him as your new co-host.
No, I'll just point you to where to go. I'll just point you.
Yeah, it's interesting that such a small pocket of music. Phil, Matt, and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Jazz and classical actually do make up about 3%, 2.5% of all music out there. And so such a small world of jazz musicians and blues musicians as well as the classical. So it's a tiny, tiny pocket of music. And for you to be sitting with Daryl Stogren, that's a smaller world. It wasn't by accident, was it?
Nope. He's the guy who brings all the internationals in to Canada to teach them what they're doing and show them what they're doing. Man,
next week, if Phil's around, I want to ask him a question. We're not going to get into it today because I just realized that we are sitting with a music festival producer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if that's what your title would be, Phil, but you've thrown a music festival in Romania. So we're going to talk about that next time because I want to hear.
Very cool.
Would you come back next week? Would you listen? This week's album coming up that's going in your ears is going to be 1,000 times easier to listen to than Indo Jazz. I promise you.
Right. So you know what? Without further ado, what is that?
You go ahead and you do it.
You want me to oogle over this one?
I do. This one is gonna rock you, dude.
Give me your rating scale again, so I can go through it the proper way. Herbie?
Number 77.
Are you kidding
Oh,
me? Oh,
He
sorry.
you might as well tell it. You might as well read it now.
Herbie Hancock, the new standard. Oh, Verve CD.
It was on the Verve, Verve label.
CD. Yeah.
Released on CD in
1995.
1995.
Hey, that was a good year. That's the year I graduated high school.
Would you read off? Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Read off
That's
the
right.
names on
Yeah,
this.
read off the names of the other
And I
artists.
want
Can you
to watch
see it?
Matt's
Oh, I
expression.
can't see all this.
Okay,
I can't
all right.
see all that.
I'll tell you what. I'll read one. You read one. How's that?
Okay.
Herbie Hancock on piano.
And Michael Brecker on tenor and soprano saxophone.
Ooh.
John Schofield on the guitar and sitar.
Dave Holland on drums.
No, on the
I'm
bass.
sorry, bass.
You can't read it either.
I can't read it either.
That's why I didn't try.
Jack DeJohnette on drums.
When I said drums, I was like, well, that was Jack DeJohnette coming up, so he was on drums. And then
Wait.
Don Alice on percussion.
Yeah, on auxiliary percussion.
On auxiliary
We're
percussion.
talking about superstars. John
Yeah.
Schofield on the guitar. If you've,
Mm.
I'm a Pat Metheny fan. I'm 100% a Pat Metheny fan, but Schofield is right up there with Metheny in my book. I happen to like Pat more, but Schofield is right up there. This album, if come back next week,
Okay,
let's talk about Herbie Hancock next week.
you got me hooked.
All right.
And I think that we could do a midweek if we even started next week a little bit earlier, just so that we had some time for Phil to talk about Heartbeat Festival in Romania.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, Matt, because I think a year and a half into this, we're probably the farthest thing from the unconnoisseurs anymore.
I get it. I did, but he brought a lot of good points this week that I would not have thought of
Nope.
regarding the language of music and you speak this and I speak this and we got to intertwine somehow. That was brilliant. Yeah, it was just brilliant.
So
I'm glad I was worth something. I was nervous. I was the learner of the learners.
So, from the Brothers Rices, we appreciate you being at the Unconnoisseur channel today to listen to this conversation. Thank you for joining us at the Unconnoisseurs. Phil, how would you say that in Romanian?
Mulțumesc că a ajuns aici la Unconnoisseur. There you go.
Have a great week, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us.
Herbie Hancock, the new standard,
Herbie Hancock.
1995. Go
Good
listen. Cheers, everybody.
Peace out.
La rivedere.